Hey, Tony.
Hey, Aaron, how's it going?
Pretty well. How about you?
All right, all right. You having a good week so far?
Definitely having a busy week. Um, the grant program that I spend most of my time running, it's invoicing season. So
Yeah.
I'm processing invoicing just as fast as I possibly can, basically.
Are you like the Terminator, just kind of like going through things as quick like this,
Yeah, I kind of try to be a little more careful, but yeah, basically, that's the fundamental idea.
Well, the Terminator is known for being very careful, so
Very, absolutely, very thorough, at least.
yeah.
How about you? How's your week been?
It's been busy. I've been
Yeah.
on the other side of grant programs, writing proposals and things like that.
Ah,
Yeah.
cool. Any projects in particular that you are excited about, interested in, really crossing your fingers, hope get funding?
Oh, sure. Yeah, there's a whole host of things. I don't want to curse them though by talking about them now.
Good point. Good point.
It's so incongruous to see an office chair right at the mouth of Yosemite.
It is.
Hi, Jennifer. Welcome.
Hey, how's it going?
All right. Good to see you.
Hey,
Hey, Win.
how's your weekend?
All right. How about you?
Went pretty well. Did some climbing. It's always a happy time for me. Hi, Ivy.
Hi.
Nice to meet you. Glad you were able to make it to this meeting.
Yeah, I'm excited. Hear what you guys have been working on.
Yeah, we'll go around and do introductions and everything, so you can introduce yourself and meet everybody else too.
Cool.
Yeah, glad to have you. Pull up this.
When you're co-host, in case you want to share things.
Thanks. I will share my the agenda, my screen. And there. Okay. Just make everybody's face much bigger. Cool.
Welcome, Shelly and Feline.
Shelly, how you feeling?
Much better, thanks.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. All right, cool. Well, welcome everybody. We can get started with introductions, and we go around. For those who are new, we go around and everybody has a chance to introduce themselves, give any trashy updates that they have, and then any additions to the agenda. Hopefully you can see the agenda that I'm sharing with my screen right now. We'll just be talking about the Trash Datathon, which happened was it last week or the week before? I don't remember. It's all a blur these days. But we'll talk about next steps on our publication as a group and the upcoming meeting on March 8th with the Citizen Science Group. So I'll start. I'm Wynn. I'm a PhD candidate at UC Riverside. I study trash in rivers. And I am obsessed with all things trash. Trashy updates. Let's see. I just started dealing with this new data set. So it's SCORP, the Southern California Coastal Water Research Program or project. Can't remember what that piece stands for. Project. They have an interlab comparison, a big like multi-lab team that's getting together and has tested out a bunch of different methods. And now we have this huge data set with there are 30 or 40 different variables in that data set, which Shelly and I helped to create that data set. It is massive and complicated. And we were digging into all of the reasons why microplastic methods are giving us these strange amounts of variability under certain conditions and stuff. So anyway, so that's my trashy update. I'm excited about that. I've been really working on that for the past week. And I'll I'm a co-host with Tony Hale. I'll pass it to Tony.
Hi guys. Most of you know me, Tony Hale, co-leaded this work group, and I work with the San Francisco Estuary Institute. And updates, let's see, today I was interviewed by Oracle, so you might see some promotional stuff coming out to celebrate a project that we did with some Oracle-based cloud resources. So when that comes out in a few weeks, it will be featured on trashmonitoring.org, as will news about the trash monitoring playbook. So we'll be talking about that a little bit later in connection with our March 8th meeting. So yeah, stay tuned.
Hey Tony, what meeting's on March 8th?
This is the citizen science.
Joint, okay.
So I will call on Aaron.
Hello, I'm Aaron Heyman. I'm an environmental scientist with the Sacramento San Joaquin Delta Conservancy. And I am also one of the co-chairs of the Citizen Science Subcommittee for the Trash Monitoring Work Group. And so definitely excited for March 8th, looking forward to it. As far as trashy updates go, for better or for worse, the citizen science trash organizations that I work with have all decided to not sort of formally do their cleanups in spring of 2021, so this spring. They are strongly encouraging everyone to go out individually and are happy to supply materials, bags, gloves, that kind of thing. But they're not sort of as an organization going to be, they thought it would be bad optics to be sort of advocating for groups of people to come out and sort of communally do something, since we still have COVID. But yeah, so that's my update.
And so Ivy, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. I'm Ivy. I don't know if I'm replacing Casey at her job. I don't know if she actually went to any of these meetings or yeah, maybe.
Yeah, she did.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so she's leaving North Coast Environmental Center to work with her partner who has a salt production company. And so I just came in about a week ago. So I'm just kind of getting up to speed on all of she's on 5 or 6 subcommittees and groups and stuff like that. So I'm just getting up to speed on all that stuff. So I don't really have a trashy update yet, but yeah, so I'm looking forward to just finding out about some of the ways that people are dealing with all this data, because that's kind of something we're trying to work out too.
And Gary, do you want to go next?
Yeah, hey everybody, welcome to the group. Ivy, Gary Conley, I'm with Second Nature. We build tools to help cities deal with their trash problems, and I am interested in using data to tell interesting stories, and this group is always seems to find some good stories to tell. No trashy updates this week. How about, oh, is that it? Am I last? No, Jarma.
There we go. Good afternoon. My name is Jarma Bennett, and I work at the State Water Board. And I'm also interested in trash. How about that? And I don't have any trashy updates either, but I will pass it on to Jennifer.
Hey everybody, I am Jennifer Hart. I'm the Plastic Pollution Coordinator with the Surfrider Foundation. So I help oversee our National Beach Cleanup Program. As far as trashy updates, kind of on the same page as Aaron, where we're not really doing large scale group cleanups. We're still promoting our solo beach cleanups and small groups where it's allowed. And then we are also starting to pilot collaborating with NOAA's Marine Debris Tracker app, just to kind of help make it a little bit easier for individuals to collect data and kind of add it to our database. So that's sort of our current project right now. And then let's pass it to Shelley.
Hello, I'm Shelley Moore, and I am co-chair of the Trash Monitoring Work Group. I work for SFEI, and trashy updates. We had the Scripps Brady short course a couple weeks ago, and I was moderator for a session on data management, and I had two really awesome co-hosts with me. I had Greg Gerhardt from the State Water Board, as well as Glenn Calger, who is in this meeting, and he was a superstar. They all loved the tools he's created and some of the work that he's been doing to advance taxonomy and that kind of stuff. So thanks, Wynn, again for participating, and hopefully they contacted you about another little nugget they had to share with you, and I hope you can benefit from that. So that's my trashy update. Let's see, has number 2 Walter gone yet?
I love how Walter is still number 2.
Yep.
My Walter number 2. All right. Well, let me put my, sorry here, hold on here. Yes, it's Walter Yu, Caltrans, or Department of Transportation, and formerly environmental, but now data governance programs. I help do our data governance implementation here at DOT. And for trashy update, we had a really good experience with the workshop. So thanks to Tony and the gang with the I think the trash monitoring. We had our datathon. So there's also been interest internally within Caltrans for more data science and tools. So I'm leading an internal workshop, Intro to Python. So I did invite some of the colleagues here in this group, and so maybe I'll extend it to everyone here. I do have room for a couple more attendees. It's officially a Caltrans workshop, but again, in the spirit of helping other agencies and kind of the cause in general, I'll put my email in the chat. So if you're interested, shoot me a note. It'll be virtual over about a dozen sessions, an hour each, and it's all hands-on. And we're going to follow a open source curriculum from the University of British Columbia on data science. So it's an intro to Python, data science, and Jupyter. That's my update. And do I pick next, or what's the?
I just want to interject, Walter. Sure. So first of all, the Python course looks really fantastic, and I encourage everyone to seriously consider it. It's a great thing to look at. So yeah, I encourage that. But I also wanted to register, Walter, that you said Tony and the Gang, which happens to be my Kool and the Gang tribute band. So we will be performing down at the local bar if you want to come out and see us. Just thought I'd make that plug.
Very cool. Thanks. Yes, duly noted. Do I pick someone else for intro, or do we go down the line here?
Let's do Jana.
Okay, perfect.
Hi everyone, I'm Jana Tang. I'm a Surface Water Associate for Michael Baker International, and we help a lot of agencies around the state comply with the trash regulations, and so I don't particularly have any trashy updates. I do have a random trashy question to throw out there. I know, a lot of us are kind of sharing the different challenges that we have with COVID, and I was wondering if anyone has sought or found data that quantifies any amount of change in trash levels across the state for, I guess, due to the impact of COVID. So I just want to throw that to the group to see if anyone has any idea of any data being collected at this time.
Well, I know that Tom Novotny is going to be out there doing some data collection for tobacco waste in particular, and that could be used as kind of one harbinger of what is to come. Tom, do you want to take the baton next and introduce yourself and maybe talk about that project?
Yeah, this is Tom Novotny. I'm with the San Diego State University School of Public Health as a retired professor, but also the Cigarette Butt Pollution Project, which is about, as you can imagine, cigarette butts. Got several projects going on, one of which is with the Santa Barbara, UC Santa Barbara, funded by the Tobacco-Related Disease Research Program, but to assess the environmental impact on natural reserve areas. And data collection has been done now on soil, water, and sediment potential contaminations, as well as general sort of tobacco product waste cleanups around 3 different natural area reserve areas under the auspices of the UC system. Another project going on is in urban areas in San Diego to develop a monitoring tool. They were appreciative of the efforts that were made by the Estuary Institute's project, but are doing this now in the urban area to be able to get something GIS, geolocating trash hotspots, and being able to quantify the trash in some measurable urban areas, also using overlay of demographic data to bring that into the model as well. And that's being led by another professor at SDSU, Georg Matt, along with the demography department, I guess it is, who's doing the GIS mapping. We're about to launch the economic studies. It's a 3-year project funded by the CDPH to estimate the cost of tobacco product waste in the environment, whether it's direct costs or indirect costs, loss of ecosystem services, even may be able to incorporate that. So that's a nice long study project to be able to get it right. And then a 1-year project about to launch as well on a white paper waste, and just to kind of define the issues, quantify as best possible, and really lay out what needs to be studied in terms of unmet research needs. So a bunch of stuff going on. One thing I just want to mention, I just saw a paper, and I'll forward it to Tony or whoever, and it's new research that I haven't seen before on the microfiber releases from cigarette filters. And this is, I think, important because there's the filter is sort of persistent, so it breaks down into as to their release. And the release estimate for the U.S. was 300,000 tons of microfibers each year. So it's an interesting study, and I think it's got some good science behind it. I'll forward that on to you so that people have it. Just got published in January, so that should be enough.
Thank you.
So Margaret, we have Margaret McCauley also on the line. Margaret, are you able to hear us? Well, let me just say that Margaret might be joining us a little bit later. She may have stepped away, but Margaret comes from EPA Region 10, and she regularly attends these meetings. She has in the past been very closely aligned with the Escape Trash Assessment Protocol developed by Region 10 within US EPA. So Margaret, if you come back, you can introduce yourself, but I guess not. All right, we'll move on. Win.
Great. So our first agenda item today is to talk about Trash Datathon. debrief and next steps. It's really great that we have some representative from each of the groups here. So I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but maybe we could go around and just briefly, a couple minutes, talk about what the takeaways from our group were. And I could start out by reminding everybody what the datathon was all about. So these trash datathons, this was the third or fourth of these datathons. Fourth that we've done. Essentially, we invite anybody and everybody to come and nerd out with us about trash data. And we break out into focus groups. And in these groups, 10 to maybe 20 people all sit around and talk about a specific topic and discuss how to best address that problem or that need. Also, sometimes different products get generated during these things, such as data sets or online tools and stuff. That's usually not really the end goal. It's more about really drilling into a specific problem. And or also in one of the groups this time, there was a training for people to learn how to do AI as well. So it covers a broad range, and people just kind of go into whatever group they want to do. And we had 3 groups. So there was the trash data dashboard group, which was the group that I led. Then Tony and Walter led a group on using Python notebooks or Jupyter notebooks to do artificial intelligence object detection routines. Is that right? On images? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then Shelly Moore and no, you didn't. I thought you were with Gary.
I was, but Gary led it mostly.
Oh, okay. So Gary.
We led it together. I just talked a lot.
And theirs was all about turning scientific questions into management questions. And so, so then I guess we could go around, and I could start in our group. We were trying to first, I guess naively trying to develop a dashboard in 5 hours for all of the trash data in the world. And then we quickly learned the naivety of our ways and retreated to just thinking about what kind of dashboard do we need in the first place. And so we tested out. Basically, the goal was to try to help people navigate all the different trash data sets that are out there, because there's a lot of them, and they're like on many different servers spread across the world, and it's hard to find what you need. And so we try to develop like metadata and develop some user interface templates. And I think what we learned is that no matter what we do, the users of these tools are really, we need to think a lot about those users. And at least from our group, we actually had a lot of users who were not extremely familiar with using like computer applications. And so they were kind of like basically saying it needs to be like really straightforward, really simple. Like don't make it into some big like complicated data mess that you have to navigate. Like I want, to like get onto a website and click a single click through like a series of buttons and that are like obviously prompted, and then get to the data that I need. So anyway, so we learned that, and we also tried to build like a form that could help people to submit data, so that we could have one repository where people are all submitting data, and that metadata is consistent throughout. So pretty cool, and we'll continue working on that.
In the group number 2, and you can see that Walter still has that 2 to let us know that he's a ride or die number 2 group person.
Oh, no, I'll take it off.
No, I like it. I appreciate that you're gonna keep that like a tattoo every meeting going forward. But we in group number 2, we were focusing on artificial intelligence, and as Wynn noted, we Walter led a training. Before that, though, we did go through some of the material that Shelley and I had been working on in terms of the projects that were funded by the Ocean Protection Council, and some of the development of an algorithm to detect trash, and then another algorithm to detect tobacco product waste. So we went over those as kind of use cases for what you can do, kind of to, almost to give an illustration of what the results can be, with a 98% success rate for detection of cigarette butts in certain conditions. That was a something to shoot for. So that was pretty cool to start with, and then Walter took over and walked us through a Google Colab notebook, a Jupyter notebook that could help empower people to do their own development of these machine learning algorithms. Walter, do you want to talk about that?
Yes, definitely. So yeah, it was a pleasure co-leading, and we had a really good group. And we did more of a, obviously, I think it naturally segued that way. I think we were thinking other things. Maybe we were going to do a breakout, a little bit more hands-on, but I think the group was interested, so we naturally responded. So we naturally fell into that groove and had a lot of good discussion. So Tony led a section on the computer vision portion. Obviously we led off with a brief overview of all I think the theme was ways to leverage these technologies, right? And the notebook and the presentation slides were more of an example implementation, what folks could do with these technologies and make it more approachable. And so the example was, we first led with that discussion, identified some needs and interests from the group, talked about computer vision, seemed like there was a lot of interest there as well about how to leverage that. But obviously, given the scope of only two half-day sessions, we got a little bit more hands-on with just the data, but did leave some templates available for the computer vision portion, made available by Google via the Colab platform. And then we moved on to the group project, where again we just got our feet wet a little bit, and the Colab notebooks were really nice, and that folks could create their own copy, work with it as they'd like, not fear about breaking it. Really did a thorough walkthrough. Got a lot of good questions, found out that you can run R in Notebook and vice versa. Now in Colab or in RStudio, you can run Python. So a lot of good learnings all the way around, and we reported out, and I think we'll just keep the work going. And I know we're gonna segue into the workshop here at Caltrans. So we're gonna do that over the next 6 months. So back to you.
And just, I guess, take note that the workbook that Walter assembled is available, it continues to be available, which you can take, and it's often great, especially if you're not deep into writing code, to start with an example that you can modify. So that's I would say it's a really good resource. If you're not able to make it to the Python training, at the very least you could take that Collab notebook and go from there.
Yeah, I'll put that in the chat too. Yep.
That's great. And then group 3, Gary and Shelley, do you want to talk about your group?
Yeah, we were aligning trash monitoring with critical knowledge needs. It was a pretty diverse group of folks. It was a big enough group, and we had people from regulatory agencies and nonprofit groups and cities and everything, consultants, everything in between. So we had a really wide array of perspectives that were helping us to kind of build this framework to go from management questions all the way through monitoring data collection, data synthesis and analysis, and production of data products, sort of outline what each of those steps should be for a set of management questions that the group had converged on. They identified, what common barriers were across those questions for data collection and efficiencies of monitoring, et cetera. And some kind of common threads emerged. They graded in those links in the chain of getting to data products that help resource managers make better decisions about where the biggest trash problems are, where we should focus our resources, whether or not current measures are working. A common set of threads that emerged was monitoring coordination, data synthesis and sharing. So some of that's a people thing, some of that's a technical infrastructure problem, and things like that kind of cut across each of those problems. We used the California Trash Monitoring Playbook as kind of our initial structure for different data types that people would use to address each of these questions. And I think by the end, we got to some pretty useful insights in terms of where the common breakdowns were in getting to where we need to with trash data right now. What did you think, Shelley? Is that about where we got to?
Yes, the session was well attended. We had a lot of people with a lot of interest in what we were talking about, and they're looking for solutions. And we're excited about the tiered system for the trash monitoring playbook. That was a great summary, Gary. I also wanted to say too that we actually had 3 participants at least that I saw that came out of the Scripps Ready short course, including one person from Nigeria who was up late participating in the datathon. So that was awesome.
Yeah, it was loads of fun, and I learned a bunch from the participants through the process. So yeah, really fantastic, and thanks you guys for organizing the whole thing, Wynn and Tony.
And if you are interested in belatedly attending, you can watch the video of the second day. I don't think we have recordings of the first day, do we, guys? I don't think we do.
I don't think
yeah,
so.
so we do have half the thing was recorded. So, but each individual breakout session was recorded. So you can go, and if you're interested in the management questions to monitoring practices, you can watch that, or AI, or the data portal ideas that Wynn talked about. So each one of us has a separate recording. So please, the Monitoring Council has those posted on their YouTube channel, so you can gain access to that. I want to, with Gary, as you're talking about the focus of your group, and Shelley talking about that group, it got me thinking actually about with the question that Jana posed, and I want to take your question seriously, because one of the things that this work group, this subcommittee really should do is to be responsive to people's needs. And we want to make sure, you've been a long time supporter of this group, and we even you invited us down to your office at one point. So I want to make sure that we're answering your questions. So when you said, how have things changed during the pandemic as far as trash conditions or load? I want to come back to that, because I think that Tom laid out a whole really cool plan to do data gathering with respect to tobacco product waste and looking at different impacts. But one of the things I wanted to ask you is for that type of question, so connecting the question to monitoring practices or monitoring techniques, are you interested, what type of information would be informative to you, right? So in other words,
Yeah.
Are you looking at like overall load? So if we said it went from, this many, hundreds of thousands of tons of waste, now it's been reduced because of decreased economic activity or what have you, or the amount of PPE has gone up, so it'd be very product specific, like these types of things are seen much more prevalently, and so it'd be almost more of a narrative, like we're seeing, more people are more anecdotally seeing this type of thing. Or is it about a particular type of material like plastics, or is it about condition scores? That is, we're seeing that things are getting, according to a 12-point scale or a 4-point scale, things are getting trashier in these areas and less trashy in these areas. What would be an answer for you that would be satisfactory?
Yeah, I don't think it draws from any particular agency's question. I think it's kind of something that we all kind of intuitively know, that there's some sort of shift in what's happening right now or over the past year. And I think right now is a timely answer to kind of think about it even as a group, because it's been a year. It's not like a couple months that we've seen things change. It's like a steady kind of year of of data, or that of nature happening, and regular normal activities, at least in the normal of the last year, of what's been happening. And I think any and all that you mentioned is, I'm curious about, from a compliance standpoint for many agencies. I don't think it's I haven't gotten any of those specific questions myself, but it's something that I personally think about in terms of, we are the data group, and I wonder if anyone is collecting that data. It's intuitively, we know there's a change, but I wonder if quantifying that change, whether that be anecdotal or through like quantification, is something that anyone is aware of, because it's just a very interesting case to me personally.
Yeah, and I would say for me, it goes even beyond a personal thing, because knowing that the economy is impacted in such a way, or knowing that people are sheltering in place, it's an interesting measure, I think, to see what the impact on the waste in the environment is, because then it can help to suss out just how much waste there was up in the watershed, just slowly being washed down without any active reintroduction of material, or kind of also measuring just in a passive way, that is, without changing any regulation, but changing the conditions by virtue of this pandemic, how much is there the potential distance between the trash loads that we were continually producing and then where we are today, or during some period within the pandemic.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I think those go beyond it just an academic concern, because that often can set a certain range of possibility that you could then use as a target. Almost in the same way within environmental concerns, if we wanted to see, like, if we stopped flying as much, how much would it change the air quality in certain areas, or driving as much. So there are types of things like that I think are real environmental laboratories that are available to us, should we choose to do that. So I think those are really great questions for us.
Yeah, hasn't there been a paper that's come out recently, or some press about one of the trackers, the debris trackers, and the amounts of things like PPE in the environment? I think it was it Literati that came out with something, or was it a different app?
Yeah, there have been quite a few reports that have come out, and there's even been some peer-reviewed publications that have gotten through now that have some preliminary data and stuff in them. So I can share, I'll look those up and share the ones that I know about with you, Jana.
That'd be great, thanks.
Tom, just to return to your update, when you said that the monitoring tool with the geolocation of trash hotspots and things like this, I know that you're creating a model. Is it meant to be a predictive model?
No, I don't think it's predictive. It's more just descriptive, rather, to be able to identify the burden that's in the community, not necessarily to predict what would go away or get worse. Or I think it's just a matter of being able to show the association with different geolocations, more just descriptive, I think.
Would you foresee, if we had a lot more data that could be fed into it, that eventually we could get to the point where we would be able to disentangle all the factors that go into production of generation of trash, so that we could get to a predictive model?
Yeah, I think if there were a systematic way of measuring over time, and then being able to add into the mix what interventions might have been implemented, or changes, for instance, in the sales of tobacco products in those areas, or there'd be a lot of things that can be measured already.
Right. Okay, great. Well, sorry to derail things for a second, but that's I think that we have to kind of sometimes just seize the wheel to make sure that we're responsive to people's concerns, because I think that is a wholly appropriate question to pose to this group.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you that there's going to be some really strong signals in the environment, and pretty soon we're going to start seeing a lot of papers coming out about this too. I mean, I've even done some preliminary work in my neighborhood. So I just shared a link in the chat to 2 papers that are kind of the like cornerstone papers for the field right now about this topic. One's in environmental science and technology, the other's in environmental pollution. So I'm expecting a lot of the things that they bring up there are going to be like key research topics on this.
Does everyone see Jennifer's description there? Jennifer, do you want to just mention it?
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to throw it out there. That was something that our directors were really looking at is, 1 year since the pandemic and kind of analyzing our specific data set and kind of just looking at, 1 year time frame, 2019 to 2020 versus those same months, 2020 to 2021. So it is kind of limited, as I mentioned, because it is just within our chapter network, and the amount of cleanups kind of varies because we weren't able to do large groups. So there are some variables that we can't really control, but it will be, I think, kind of a good intro, like insight into kind of some higher level like changes that we've seen, at least through our chapter network.
That's great. We really appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you.
So Wynn, do you want to move on to the next item?
Yeah, sounds good. So next steps for our publication. So for those who don't know, many of you are co-authors on this publication, but we created a trash taxonomy, which is a framework for relating the different categories people use to describe trash. And that is, it was supposed to be submitted 10 days ago, but I need to send out an email to the rest of the co-authors because we need to extend that timeline. Basically where we're at right now, so we got NOAA has an internal review that we need to go through, like 3 people reviewing the paper before we're allowed to submit it. So we just finished those reviews. Then we sent it to Andy Gray, who's my advisor, and he sent it back saying there's still some work that needs to be done. So yeah, I'm gonna probably end up extending, trying to extend this to probably the end of March. So hopefully the next time that we're all together again with just our group is when I'll be able to share good news about having that submitted.
Wynn? Can you remind me, is it going through NOAA for review because Sherry's a co-author on it?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Whenever there's certain agencies have a requirement for internal review, and NOAA is one of them. So, yeah.
Did you get any good suggestions from the NOAA folks, Wynn?
It's one of them was like really on top of it and gave some really great suggestions on how to improve the clarity of it from kind of like a non-technical perspective, and especially since we're submitting it to a non-technical journal, that was really helpful, and they had a lot of good advice. The other 2 kind of were just more like, yeah, I looked at it for a minute. Here's a couple, grammar suggestions or something like that. So that's pretty common what I see with the internal reviews. You have one person who's like really gonna give it hard, and then the rest of them are just like, I'm trying to get my day over with.
The infamous reviewer number 2.
Right.
He's out there waiting for you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've definitely gotten a lot of reviewer number 2s in my life.
Well, those typographical things are better than the response that just says, I don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Make it better.
Make it better. Yeah. Yeah. Those ones are hard. So anyways, yeah, it's coming along. I think the reason why I think it's going to take us another month is because one of the big things that came from the co-authors, in which we haven't really still resolved, is making the document really hit home. Like, what are our key takeaways from this study? What are the what do we need to do now that we know this? And so we've been really trying to fold that more into the narrative and make that stand out more, because it was kind of reading like a list of results. And that transformation is kind of a work of art, you know, to like take it from the list of results to like a more applied kind of focused work. But I think it's going to be doable really soon here. So thank you everybody for your patience with the timeline and stuff.
All right, so the upcoming meeting. So Aaron is co-lead of the citizen science group. And just to give you all a little bit background on this, the citizen science subcommittee, so kind of on equal footing with this committee, they invited us to come to their upcoming meeting and have kind of like a joint subcommittee meeting at that time and address things that would be of common import to both of our subcommittees. Aaron, do you want to provide some more details about what we're hoping to cover in that meeting?
Yeah, sure. So we've got sort of three major topics, and then sort of an open period at the end for discussing those or other topics as well. But one of them is San Diego River Parks Foundation data collection and management, and kind of looking at how they do it, and yeah, just some of their techniques. One is the California Trash Monitoring Methods Playbook, which we're going to get sort of an introduction and overview from, hopefully. Very excited about that. And then another one talking about tools to collect data, and in particular, tools to collect data that citizen scientists can sort of easily approach and engage with. Yeah, just to kind of gauge what would fit people's needs the best. And then, like I said, after that, a pretty open discussion period to mull things over and to bring in any other ideas that have sort of surfaced over the course of the meeting.
That's great. So I guess it goes without saying that everyone who's here is welcome to join that meeting, of course.
Yes, absolutely. Encouraged to join. I think this is going to be one of those occasions where, the more opinions and the more sort of thoughts and perspectives we have, the better. So I hope everybody comes.
So how many members are in your group?
Highly variable. We have about 20 people who signed up to be on the list. And of that, about 14 of them, maybe 12 to 14, do a pretty consistent attendance.
Okay, so we could end up seeing essentially a doubling of our size for this. Yeah. Okay, well that's great. Are there, aside from talking about those topics, I guess I wonder what we can do to prepare for that. I mean, I know that Shelley and I will be on the hook to talk about the playbook, but other than that, are there things that you're expecting this group to be ready to how to contribute?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I'm not exactly sure. I'm kind of hoping that this goes in some sort of organic directions that just sort of yields good results. But basically, the overall theme of the thing is trying to provide the people in the citizen science subcommittee with a perspective of what data management is and what it looks like in terms of collecting trash, and really that what tools are available for them and how do they engage with them. Having these amazing tools out there is incredible. And I mean, like the trash taxonomy paper, for example, is super useful and super cool, but it's also pretty darn technical. And so making that information as accessible as possible is, I think, a great mission that we could all be on. And one step in that is, I hope, going to be this meeting, sort of a first step towards just sort of introducing the two groups to each other.
So the section on tools to collect data, is that going to be where Gary present some material, or who's presenting that? Do you know?
I actually don't know who got assigned that one. I'm not sure.
Okay. I guess we'll need to figure that one out, because Gary
Yeah.
and I both led a kind of quick rundown of different tools that we've had experience with, either created or have used. So we would just, 20 minutes is, first of all, a pretty fast clip to get through.
Yes.
Get through any bit of that, as it will be for all these other things as well. This is looking at the timings of this, it's an hour and a half, right?
Yep.
I see that the welcome and intros is 5 minutes. I don't know exactly how that will work. We have like twice as many people, and just the intros that we do here, I know we kind of go on with updates and things, but I guess the intros will just have to be like real snappy. Like,
Yeah.
say your initials and and your favorite color or something. So yeah, I guess we'll have to bear in mind that within the context of this big group of people coming together, we might not actually get to know each other all together too well until maybe the end when we do the discussion. But that's just, I don't know how best to facilitate the get to know you when it's as many as 50 people, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think when I said get to know, it's mostly just sort of, hearing the presenters, hearing some subject matters, not necessarily on a deep personal level.
Yeah. Okay, that's great.
Yeah, and I'm good to talk about the same tools we showed with you before, Aaron. So
Yeah, that'd be great. And if it makes sense to sort of zero in because of the time limitations, to pick, I don't know, your favorite two.
Yeah.
That seems like a perfectly reasonable strategy to get the conversation started.
Yeah, seems like a great thing to do. It really overlaps with the breakout group that we had during the data dive. So totally awesome. Great idea.
Cool.
So if people have questions about this meeting, Aaron, should they direct them to you or to Sherry or somebody else?
Both, yeah. Send them to me and Sherry Lippiat at NOAA. We are the co-chairs of the committee.
Great.
Subcommittee.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm really, really excited about this.
As are we.
Did
Any other agenda items, Wynn?
I think that's everything that we had on the agenda. I did want to ask just one follow-up just to make sure everybody got the invitation. I added people to the Google Calendar invite for that citizen science meeting. Everybody who wanted to attend has gotten it. If you haven't, just reach out to me and I'll add you to it. Oh, and one other thing that I forgot to mention about our publication for the trash taxonomy. The trash taxonomy is currently being used by NOAA to develop their own and extend out their own database. They have a marine debris database that they are going to be adding new categories for people to optionally input their data in different ways using different classes. And they're going to be using the trash taxonomy to actually navigate how to do that merge once they're getting this data in all these different formats. So that's been that's a really cool thing. Like that's what, that's what we want. That's our dream. Like the tools that we're creating are actually being used. So it's really exciting. And also I recently just did another use case with the illegal dumping trash data group. And I can't remember, they have like a long acronym. But I've been going to their meetings and basically they're trying to create a brand new data sheet for the whole state to use to categorize trash when they see it in an illegal dump site when they're removing. And so the state currently doesn't ask anybody to report data when they remove trash from illegal dump sites, but basically they're making a new sheet to do that. And it's presented some really interesting challenges, honestly, because the way that people characterize trash in a dump site is very kind of quick and, rough. And the categories that they're interested in using have a lot of overlap between them. And so but what I've done basically with the trash taxonomy is elucidated, realized all of those compromises that they're making with the categories that they're going to end up using, so that at least we can be prepared for the challenges that are going to arise. And we're creating like descriptions that help to make sure that there's not too much overlap between categories in practice. So anyways, yeah, those two things came up and I was really excited, and I forgot to share. Probably I was so excited I blacked out and I just remembered. But yeah.
Yeah, that happens to me a lot in meetings. I wanted to share one quick trashy update. So every morning I walk to get coffee. It's just been my routine to kind of pretend like things are semi-normal. You know, I'm masked up and everything else. And I noticed recently that I have to cross Cerrito Creek. There's a street that crosses and you can look down. And I noticed that a homeless man has kind of taken up, you know, his dwelling like right there, kind of inside the creek. And I kind of looked at it and go, oh no, I wonder if he's gonna attract a lot of trash down into the creek. You know, it's just a really not a great place to situate himself. But it was weird. It was as if he like read my mind, because this was about 3 days ago when he set himself up right at the edge of the creek. And as I walked by this morning, he looked at me and said, hey, and I've never talked to him before. I've never seen him before. I've just seen his stuff. I never saw him. But someone called out to me and I realized, oh, it's the guy who's living there. And he said, hey, good morning. And I was like, oh, hi, yeah, good morning. And he said, look, I cleaned up the creek. And so, you know, I was bringing my own expectations that like he's gonna like be bringing a lot of trash down into the creek, when really like he showed me the big pile of stuff that he's extracted from the place that he's been kind of taken care of, right? So, you know, it is this kind of, you have to realize the expectations and prejudices that you bring to a lot of these interactions. And so anyway, I thought I would share that with you because it's apropos of kind of what we were talking about before, and how it's a difficult thing when you try to blend people with the data and everything else, and there you can make assumptions. So thought I would share that story with you.
Thank you. That was really beautiful.
Yeah, that's a nice story. I hope you gave him a survey sheet to fill out of what types of trash.
Of course, I carry a survey sheet in my back pocket all the time. Yeah, but it was weird. Like it was just kind of an interesting thing for him to like call it out, like as if I would have, you know, been caring about how much trash is going down into the creek. But he knew, I guess. I don't know if he says that to every single person who passes by, or he did his research on me. I don't know.
Oh, that's awesome.
He's seen the many news videos you've been part of.
It's all that media coverage for sure.
Right.
Yeah, he's been watching the TV. But I had on a full, like he could see this much of me. So even if he was watching TV, I'm not so sure he'd be able to recognize.
It's the flat cap.
The flat cap, yeah.
Dead giveaway.
All right. Well, thank you all. If you have any other suggestions for what agenda items to cover during this meeting, please don't hesitate to reach out to me or Wynn, and we'll make sure we get time to talk about it. In the meantime, let's get geared up for March 8th, and that will replace our normal, you know, meeting here. So if you see a cancellation coming down the pike for our time, is it scheduled for the same time that we would normally meet? Do you know when?
No, it's a different time.
Different time. Okay. So we will be canceling our meeting. And so this upcoming citizen science meeting will be replacing ours. All right. Well, thank you very much for a great meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
See you later.
Thank you.